Welcome to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, coming your way from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, and presented by the Texas Lottery. Longhorns 3-1, more importantly, 1-0 in Big 12 Conference play, coming off the 70-35 win over Texas Tech, and getting ready for the first road conference game of the season this coming Saturday morning, 11 a.m. kickoff in Fort Worth against the TCU Horned Frogs. I asked you last week about coming off a win and guys going to the practice field with an enthusiastic air about them. I would imagine the same holds true when you put 70 on the board.
John Bianco just asked me, how was practice today? And, we practiced really hard today. I was really proud of the guys. It's been 2 days of just putting forth the effort, the physicality. We weren't perfect. That's okay. That's what practice is for. Practice is there to fix the things that need to get fixed. That's why we have our meetings. But the intention in which we've practiced the last 2 weeks has been something that I've been really, proud of the guys for.
Your players have discussed this over the last couple of weeks, how, and you mentioned it as well. I remember last Thursday saying our best week of practice to this point. Players said the same thing. I've heard Casey Thompson talking about it the other day, saying that, when you have the kinds of weeks of practice that we had, you can only get better. And I know that it's not necessarily the loss at Arkansas that spurred that. By the same token, I know that you and the staff were really urging them to make sure they rededicated themselves after that.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that they weren't dedicated to it all. I think sometimes when you have early success like we did in that first ball game against Louisiana, you think, okay, well, that worked. We're good enough. Let's just kind of keep it status quo, and that'll work the rest of the way.
If nothing else, subconsciously,
yes,
right?
And then naturally what happens is change is inevitable. You either are striving to get better and ultimately get better, or you'll gradually start to slip and slide and get worse. And then other teams keep getting better. And I think the loss in its own way just reminded us we have to keep working. We have to keep striving to improve individually so that we can improve collectively. And it's been really cool to see the leadership on the team kind of take on that charge. Just on little things, like today it was fascinating. We actually practiced in DKR because with the rain and the field situation. I watched veteran players reminding the younger players to run off the field at the end of practice. Like, there's little things like that to me, like, these guys are really tuned into the things that we think are important. They're buying into it. And then ultimately just the practice itself was, I thought, was intense, and it was good.
Yeah, you've pointed out, and we've talked about the whole buy-in thing over time over the past several weeks, but win or lose, that continues to happen. If everybody's doing their job over time, the buy-in thing happens regardless of what's going on the field. It does make it easier, obviously, when the results are what you want.
That's right. Hey, it's a lot easier to buy in when you win, right? I think the cool thing for us was after the loss at Arkansas, I think we probably got a little more buy-in even then to say, hey, we need to follow the lead. We need to buy into what's going on, so we can't let this happen again. And then you stack it with 2 good football games, and that buy-in, that energy is where it should be. We just have to make sure ultimately we get to a space to where come Saturday we perform really well, because ultimately it's about the performance. And this is all the build-up and the lead-up to making that happen. The result will be the result, but we just want to make sure we perform the way we want to perform.
Do you think that it is one of the more challenging things is to get the guys to understand that whole thing about if you're not getting better, you're getting worse? That maybe or that you're not improving and eventually you start sliding back, that it might take some time, even for 18 to 22-year-olds, that there always has to be the effort going, because if you're not getting better, then the alternative is not good. That's
right.
That's one of the more challenging things for them to really accept and understand and be able to compartmentalize and use to their advantage.
I think it is, but I also think ultimately when they have living examples, and unfortunately we had a lot of them in one game, that's a quick reminder right there in and of itself. And then we had 2 ball games here. We won at home and things went well, but there was a lot of things to look at individually, player-wise or scheme-wise on offense, defense, or special teams to say, hey, we need to improve that, or he needs to get better at this. And I think the players recognize it when you can actually point it out to them and then take it to the meeting room. You pointed it out, and here's how we're going to fix it. Take it to the field, work on it, and then ultimately come the next game, and then they improve it and they have some success. It's like, I want more of that. Like that, I'll do more of that. What do I need to do now? And that's kind of the way you have to go about it.
You see things under the entire scope. Fans and media and other people may focus in or zero in or dial in on one specific area. Where I'm going with this is your offensive line, because after the Arkansas game, folks immediately went to the offensive line and said, well, they didn't do their job, or they got beat at the line of scrimmage, or they missed assignments, or they struggled in this and that. And you said it was a lot more than just that. Yes, that was a part of it, but it was a lot more than just that. Just as you followed up after the Rice game and even after the Tech game, when everybody said, hey, offensive line did a really good job. They didn't even allow pressures, let alone sacks. And you said, again, it's more than just that. But you did see the incremental improvement as well.
Well, without a doubt. I think it's easy, whenever you can't run the ball well or the quarterback gets sacked and gets hit, it's easy to say the offensive line didn't play good. And then when you run the ball well and the quarterback has success throwing the ball, well, the offensive line must have played good, right? Well, I think part of that on both ends of the spectrum is was our plan adequate to have success? B, were we getting open down the field so that the quarterback could get rid of the ball on time? C, were the runners running where they were supposed to go so that we could have those runs? And then D, ultimately, was the quarterback managing the runs and the passes and the game plan and what we were trying to do? So it's all encompassing, but at the end of the day, I've said this all along, the game of football is won and lost up front. And we are definitely much improved of what we're doing up front. I think the guys are much more cohesive than they've been, but I think their intent is better. I think not only are we blocking the right people more consistently, I think we're sustaining those blocks and we're finishing those blocks, and that's creating the running lanes.
And that is the technique thing that I've heard you refer to, whereas some folks would say, well, yeah, they did better because they were playing Rice and Texas Tech. They weren't playing Arkansas. But there are things that you and Coach Flood recognize about technique and being lined up properly and aligned properly and the cohesion you speak of. Those things, regardless of the opponent, are very, very important, and that's where you've seen the improvement, right?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think there's been major improvement that way. I think there's been confidence built in that group as well. And like anything, when you don't play well as a team, the first thing I do as a coach is self-analyze. Did I do everything in my power to make sure I was putting them in the best position to have success? And not just on game day, but was the plan right at the start of the week? Did we practice it enough? Did we do it enough to where they had the confidence to go do it? I don't know, because obviously that didn't work that day. But the last 2 weeks it has. I think the formula is right to where we need to be. And now we're kind of in the back end stages of this week. And it's like we had this plan, we're practicing these plays, but ultimately now for myself over the next, 2.5, 3 days, what am I going to call and when and how and who's in the game and who am I asking to do what is really where my mind starts to go. The plays are in the game plan now. Now it's about the play calling aspect of it all and then the potential adjustments that need to be made in game based off of what TCU could do.
Is it safe or fair to say that in as much as folks would evaluate what goes on with a specific area of the offense or defense every week, you two and your coaching staff are doing self-evaluation every week? Every
week. Every Sunday. We dig right back into it. And, let me give you an example from last week's game against Tech. The one play I can't get out of my head from last week's game was Casey's interception. Not because of Casey throwing that ball and maybe he shouldn't have thrown it and all that, I didn't think I put him in a very good spot and situation as the flow of the game was going. We had a lot of momentum. We were playing really well offensively. And when that happens, you have to be careful because a quarterback almost at that time feels invincible. Like, I can throw it left-handed and it's probably going to get completed for a touchdown. And it's a great place to be, but it's a scary place to be because there's no throw you don't like. And I really thought about at that time potentially even running a screen, running the football, taking the 3 points, letting Dicker get out there, taking 3. But I got a little over aggressive too. And, maybe we could have hit something else earlier in the play, but it put Casey in that position. We turned the ball over and kind of sapped a little bit of our momentum after the turnover. So that was already in my brain by the time I just got done singing our fight song and walking in, and it was like, that was what was on my mind.
That's
so
the moment that was in your
that
life.
was on my mind. I wasn't thinking about it. I was like, damn, I screwed that up. I could have done it better.
So that's the moment that was in your mind, not when Santa ran onto the field. And the reason why I say that is because we had a question for Mike who wanted to know did you almost decide to run down Santa last Saturday?
I really didn't. I was just so curious. I got to be honest with you. I kind of saw it. I saw him go by the first time.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of looked around like, who's going to run out here and tackle Santa? Because it was getting to the point, I think one of our players was getting ready to go. And
Really?
I don't know if that would have been a good ending to Santa's sleigh ride, through DKR. But fortunately, we were able to tackle Santa before he scored his third touchdown on his trek there.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, tip of the cap to Caton Hyde, who launched after him. So it was good that he did that. All right, coming up, we've got some more of your questions. Obviously, we'll continue to look back at Texas Tech and get ready for the matchup with the TCU Horned Frogs. Do want to remind you to register free at texassports.com/Texas Farm Bureau for your chance to win tickets to home games all season and be entered to win a grand prize trip for 2 to the Longhorns Bowl game, courtesy of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. That's texassports.com/Texas Farm Bureau. Good luck. This is Longhorn Weekly with head coach Sark, seen by those of you watching on the Longhorn Network and heard all across the state of Texas and the great Southwest on the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield.
Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark is presented by the Texas Lottery, celebrating 30 years of winning. Play today. And in part by Plucker's Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Plucker's, the West Campus location here in Austin, and presented by the Texas Lottery. You were asked a question at your news conference on Monday, and I know I'm paraphrasing here, but I was interested in your response when you were asked with regard to your switch of your starting quarterback, did it make you a more aggressive play caller necessarily? And you weren't necessarily going down that road. So no, it depends on any number of variety of things, but you talked about the comfort and security you feel in whoever's taking the snap at the time to execute what seemingly will work, and also knowing what the limitations and capabilities are of the given quarterback, in this case being Casey.
Yeah, I think, a lot goes into that. We practice plays throughout the week, and we're going through these plays, and pretty much the quarterbacks split their reps 50-50, and we try to practice all our plays with each guy so that they can see it, they can rep it, and you start to get a feel for the meetings, the conversations, and things of that nature. And so that call sheet kind of gets formulated. I start to prioritize some things on the call sheet, and then we ultimately meet with the quarterbacks Friday night. That's the last thing I do pretty much before I shut it down. And we kind of go through the call sheet, and they tell me what they like the most based off of third down, red zone, shot plays, whatever that is.
And you're asking all the quarterbacks.
I'm asking all of them. I don't ask one of them. I ask all of them. And we go through it. And then I kind of take that back, and then I kind of look at what I feel and what I believe. And there's a great feeling of knowing there's something I like a lot that they mark, that they like a lot. Man, that's something you can almost bank on is getting called tomorrow. I don't ever tell them what I chose or what I'm thinking, because I really want their opinion to be their opinion, not trying to appease me, but what do they really like? And then when you can get to that point, then come game day, You try to call the plays based on the scenarios that are coming up in the game, based on the flow of the game, based on the looks you're getting from the defense, and then what matches, what they like and what I like to try to give us the best chance to have success.
How different would you say? I mean, clearly it's different, but I'm just curious into the time load breakdown just on a game day. The difference for you, say, from a year ago as a play caller on the sideline in your role as opposed to this year, your role in calling the plays, but you're also the head coach. How different is it for you in terms of how you compartmentalize your time that you have to devote to calling the plays offensively, and when the other team has the football, being involved as you are with PK and the rest of the defenses?
Yeah, I always I'm definitely always on with the defense when we're on defense, and I try to be as helpful as I can be based on some of the things that I'm seeing. The one benefit probably for me on offense now is I'm in year 5 with Kyle Flood as our offensive line coach. I'm in year 3 with A.J. Milwee working with me with the quarterbacks and being my eyes upstairs. I'm in year 3 with Jeff Banks as our tight ends coach, but also as our special teams coordinator. So there's a lot of cohesiveness there, and they know what I need and what I'm thinking and what I want. I think the offensive staff does a really good job of getting the information compiled after every drive, and then they hand me the sheet with what occurred on that drive, and then I'm able to quickly kind of analyze it and then start prepping for the next drive as I'm with the defense at that time. And if I directly need the offensive guys, I just click over and talk to them. So probably the biggest difference for me now is not sitting on the bench talking to the players directly, and that takes a lot of trust because I'm asking Stan Drayton, Andre Coleman, Kyle Flood, those guys to get to the players and, hey, remind so-and-so this, remind them that, hey, guys, I'm going to run this play next series, get them ready for it. That dialogue, I'm counting on them having those conversations that I was used to having a year ago.
That's where I was going next. I started to say the working relationship you have with Coach Flood, Coach Banks, and Coach Milwee does shorten the curve. Doesn't it make it a little bit easier in the working relationship with Coach Drayton and Coach Coleman?
I think it helps a lot, because a lot of times if and or when they have questions about this or that, even when we're at the office, they don't always have to come to me. They can go to those guys and say, hey, what are we doing here? How does this go in practice? And they can quickly answer that, those questions. And so I think that that's helpful. But I will say this, we work really well together throughout the week. We game plan together. We're in those meetings together. We have a lot of fun together. I think that that's important. That I think that helps on game day from a personality standpoint, a play calling style. They're still learning me. We're 4 games in. I don't know if anybody on staff thought I was going to go tackle over on 4th and 2 for the first down. But, I try not to be too predictable with some of the stuff that we're doing.
I can just imagine Coach Ray going, well, that's different. A question from Cindy here wants kind of a status update on the progress of Jatavian Sanders, what you're seeing from JT, and also Troy O'Meary. I know it's been frustrating for him trying to come back from his injury.
Yeah. So JT Sanders, it is the beauty of a true freshman who playing tight end. When you play tight end, but in high school it really wasn't really tight end because you're kind of a flexed out guy. That's a big transition.
And he was flexed all over the field at Denton Ryan.
And he will be for us too.
Yeah.
But we are seeing every week this guy is getting better, and he's coming. He's getting close. I'm just excited for him because I think he continues to work. He's got a great attitude. He's really a leader amongst some of those freshmen, and his future is very bright, so we're excited about him. Unfortunately, Troy O'Meary actually today had season-ending knee surgery again today, so he'll be out the rest of the year. It's unfortunate. We had high hopes for him this year, but I know he's going to work extremely hard. Our medical staff's going to work extremely hard to get him healthy and get him right so that we can have him for next fall.
All right. Coming up, we'll have some more of your questions and some other topics to get to as well. Longhorn Weekly, presented by the Texas Lottery, here from Pluckers. The West Campus location continues in a moment. receivers bunched on the short side to the right. Now Whittington shifts in motion. Thompson from the shotgun, the snap. Back to throw. Swings now, wide open. Robinson the catch. Inside the 30. Shakes a tackle. Say goodnight to this one. Bijan Robinson takes it 39 yards on 4th down. The catch and run to the end zone for a Texas touchdown. We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin. That was a 4th down call and going to Bijan, and it was called well, blocked well. I mean, that probably went about as well as you could have hoped for, did it?
Yeah, it really did. I loved. I thought the mechanics of how it went about. I'm not loving right now what we're doing. I'm gonna get back to that. We try to be pretty aggressive, knowingly what's happening in those whole 4th down scenarios and going for it. I really would like us to be more effective on the 3rd down.
So it doesn't get to 4th.
Yeah, so it doesn't get to 4th. So we need to fix that, first of all. But the idea that the players understood, like if you watched at the end of the 3rd down play, no one even thought about walking off. They knew already, hey, we're getting ready to go for it. We got a formation kind of into the boundary, used the motion with Whittington, and then ended up getting Bijan out on the edge. And that's the whole idea of what we've been trying to preach to these guys is we're going to continue to try to find space for the playmakers, right? And if we can create space when they get the ball in their hands, and we practice it every Tuesday and every Wednesday, good on good, our tackle drills, we should make the first man miss. And that's exactly what Bijan did. He made the first man miss, and then he was able to, then kick in the gear and go score on the touchdown. But it was cool to see it all kind of play itself out the way it did.
How comfortable are you generally going for it on 4th down, and is it game, opponent, and distance specific?
I think
Field
it is.
position
Yeah,
specific?
I definitely, and I think there's a flow to the game, one. I think that there's, how do we feel about what we have to call for 4th down? But also, I think you have to have faith in the players, that they've got the confidence to go execute the things that you want to do. And so far, so good. Ultimately, really, the one that stings that we didn't make was the one at Arkansas on the 4th and 1, kind of backed up. And that one was a little bit more out of necessity, where we felt like we had to go for it there. The rest of them that we've gone for have really been, we had a pretty good choice, and we've decided to go for it, and it's been pretty effective.
You mentioned playmakers. You certainly have them in the backfield, which gets us to the question from Jason and Deletion Christian, who say they're very impressed with Jonathan Brooks and how fast has he developed since arriving on campus, and how would he compare to other freshman running backs that you've worked with and coached in the past?
I've been very impressed with Jonathan Brooks as well. He's kind of a quiet kid, hard-working kid. The one thing that jumped out to me, he had a little bit of an issue in training camp of fumbling. And Coach Drayton, if you play running back for him, you really don't want to fumble, because the post-practice kind of regiment to try to rectify the fumbling is something else. I mean, the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, I would never want to fumble the ball. Well, he went 4 or 5 practices of doing this because he had fumbled during practice. And he kind of got over that, got through that. And we used to always laugh in practice because it was hard to tell. The guys running kind of with the threes. And he almost looks like he's just kind of running through the park, like ho-hum. It's a gain of 10, it's a gain of 15. And we're like, surely that can't happen if he gets in the game. And the last 2 weeks he's gotten in, and that's kind of what it looks like. He just kind of works his way down the field. He plays physical, he plays hard, he runs tough. We give out War Daddy awards for guys that just play the style of play that we want our guys to play with. And, we awarded Jonathan Brooks with one last week for a guy that only played, 7 or 8 plays at the end of the game. But that's how hard he's playing for us right now and doing it the right way.
And I know you're happy with all of your guys, with Roshan, with Keelan, as well as Bijan and Jonathan.
This room has probably been the most impressive room on our team right now. I mean, the production is a production. I get all that. And they're all running well and playing well when they get in there. But I think there's a seriousness about them, their approach, their leadership, their commitment to special teams. I mean, between Roshan Johnson and Keelan Robinson, I don't know who does more on special teams than those two guys for us right now. their versatility. They give us a lot of different things that we can do with them. So all in all, that room has been tremendous for us.
You brought up what they do on special teams. I'm sure Keelan was disappointed he got called for offsides on the punt block there. How much of that is just flat out God-given speed when he's coming in, and how much of it is his own attention to detail and the anticipation of when it's going to happen and when he can launch to go after it?
I think it's two things. I think one, I think Coach Banks does a great job of scheming it up. And two, I think Keelan trusts him. And when he tells him, get right next to that tackle and trim the fat, and it's going to take you 7 steps and you'll block it, Keelan trusts him. And he is shot out of a cannon. It's been 2 weeks in a row. He's blocked him and kind of blocked him easily. And they haven't been off the fingertips. They are clean. And so I think there's a level of trust. And then ultimately you have to cut it loose. If you're going to block punts or you're going to block field goals or you're going to intercept passes, you kind of have to cut it loose and you have to go for it. You can't do anything cautiously in the game of football. And I think he's a prime example of that, the way he goes after it on teams. And when you watch him run the ball, he goes for it. He runs hard for a guy at 180, 185 pounds.
I want to remind you to come support the Longhorns this Texas OU weekend, which will be a week from this weekend, starting Friday, October 8th at the 33rd annual Get Teed Off at OU Golf Tournament, to the Bash before the Clash, and the tailgate at the fairgrounds. Round up your Longhorn friends and don't miss out. Go to DallasTexasAccess.org for more information. Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, coming your way from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, presented by the Texas Lottery. Continues on the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network from Lear.
Hey Coach, who has had the biggest influence on your coaching philosophy?
We thank you for that question from the team at Academy Sports and Outdoors as we continue with Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark. I think I kind of know the answer to this, only because of questions that you've been asked about it before. And I'll piggyback this with a question from Andrew here in the restaurant, who wants to know, did you always know that you wanted to coach? So with that in mind, and then who's had the biggest influence on you and your coaching philosophy?
Right. I knew I always wanted to coach when I realized I wasn't good enough as a player.
When did that realization hit?
Probably when I was in the CFL.
Yeah.
There was a point I spent 3 years up there, and I was like, okay, I physically am not gifted enough to play this for a career. I could probably hang on and hang on and hang on. I knew I wanted to coach. I enjoyed it, the little bit that I did in kind of my off seasons, but I never thought coaching like this at Texas, right? I always was like, I'm gonna be a heck of a high school coach, or I'm gonna be a really good junior college coach, and because those are my roots back home, and that's how I started. I started as a junior college quarterback coach, and I did that, and I was working at the same time, and I just thought that's how my life was going to go. I was going to have 2 jobs and kind of go about it. And then Pete Carroll got hired at USC, and I just got in front of him, and ultimately I ended up getting hired as a graduate assistant at USC, and that kind of started that process of of moving along. That's a tough question because I think, deep down to my core, Pete Carroll probably has had the biggest impact on my coaching career just because it shaped me so much. I was 1 year into doing this thing, and a lot of my my roots in the profession and how I think and the way I look at things and talking to players are really from him. And that was, I spent almost 8 years with him. But 3 of the last 5 years I got with Nick Saban, and that changed my perspective on some things, or it gave me a different vantage point on some things. So probably both of those two, and those are pretty good too. I've been coaching for, 20-something years, and 10 of those 20 or 20 some odd years have been with, in my opinion, 2 of the top 3 coaches in my era, right? And there's Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, and Pete Carroll. Those are 3 pretty good guys, and I get to spend 10 years of my coaching career with 2 of them. So I'll take it. They're great influences.
Thank you for that question from the team at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Remember, fans, Academy Sports and Outdoors is the official sporting goods and outdoor retailer of the Big 12 Conference. I'm trying to remember, where was you played in the CFL?
Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Yeah. Did you like playing in Regina, Saskatchewan?
It was rough. It was rough. It's cold. It's windy. I think any money I made, I lost at the casino because that was about all there was to do. That was it was rough.
Road trips to Winnipeg weren't exactly a highlight, huh?
No.
Okay. All right, we've got more of your questions coming up when Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery. Here from Pluckers continues in a moment.
Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark is presented by the Texas Lottery, celebrating 30 years of winning. Play today.
Thompson shifting Jordan Whittington in motion. Casey with the snap, hands it. Roshan Johnson cuts inside to the 2, the 1, the goal line. Touchdown, Texas. Roshan Johnson peeked his way through the traffic and powered his way in to the end zone. Casey Thompson shifts out as a receiver. Johnson the snap, rolling behind a block to the 5. Road to the goal line. Is he in? He is! Touchdown, Texas. For the second straight week, Roshan Johnson on the direct snap has a touchdown run. Last week it was 72 yards. This week it's 7. It counts the same. Back here on Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location. I get the feeling you feel good about something you have there, lining up Roshan to take that direct snap, and even were able to run a little option there and fake it before he took off.
Yeah, it is. It's been a nice addition. When you come in and you're trying to put your scheme together and to kind of get the base of your offense in. And then once you feel like you can get there, then you can start to do kind of some of the auxiliary things, like the Wildcat with Rowe. And we didn't really get to it until like that last week of training camp. We just started the week of the Louisiana game, and we felt comfortable enough for the Rice game. And so now it's just kind of part of the norm of what we're working on. And like I've said all along, I really believe the more things you can do well, the tougher you are to defend. And so if now a team has to get ready for Wildcat, that's one more thing they have to spend their time on that they're not spending on something else that we do. So we're always trying to build that repertoire of things that we can do well that make it difficult on our opponents of what they have to prepare for.
Clearly, Rowe likes it. I get the feeling also his teammates around him get excited about that.
I think so. All that kind of stuff is really fun, whether it's that or us going to goal line and Jet Bush being on goal line offense. There's always those little things that I think the players kind of rally around and rally behind, and this is definitely one of those.
We have a question from our loyal fan, Gene, here, who, and this kind of piggybacks on something you talked about last week when you said, as coaches, you have the role of coaching a football team, but you said we are also leaders of men. And she wants to know, how do you and the staff encourage the team to be vibrant members of the community as well as, on the football team, whether it's volunteering or the other things that they do, that your role involved with that, encouraging these guys to grow through that process as well?
Well, we really believe in having these guys having balance in their life. I'm going to start there, because really they live in 3 worlds, right? They've got their football world, they've got their academic world, and then they've got their social, personal world. And amazingly, those 3 worlds are kind of intertwined. When one of those worlds gets out of whack, whether it's an injury or you're not doing good in school or you're hanging around the wrong crowd, the other 2 will start to follow suit if we don't do something about it. So ultimately, we're trying to find that balance. We do a great job. Our director of player development is Kevin Washington. He's fantastic in creating opportunities for our guys in the community, to get them out in the community, to be part of it. And our guys take advantage of it, and we stress it. I really believe if in their free time and their personal time that's what they're doing, that's a heck of a lot doing that than what maybe some other guys are doing in their spare time, because ultimately whatever you do is going to have a direct effect on who you are as a person, a player, a student. And I think that our guys are responding to it well. They love this community. They like being part of it. And so they try to get out and do the things that in their time to be a quality citizen.
Where's Maddie, who asked a question? I want to know where Maddie is. Maddie's over there. See, and I like this because the way that Maddie is drawn on here, she's asking the question, what is your favorite food? And there's like pictures of wings and burgers and things like that. And there's Maddie right there. So maybe she wanted to know what your favorite food was, and maybe this goes into your routine. You talked about your routine, about how you go to practice and you go to the office and then you go home and you get some sleep and then you go back to practice and you get when you get into the season. How is your diet affected by
this? Is the toughest question you've asked me in 4 shows now. I mean, this has got me jammed up. I mean, because I got like a Rolodex of good food going through my head right now. But I'll be honest with you, I never turn down a really good cheeseburger. I won't turn down a good cheeseburger.
Oh, wow.
It's really hard for me to do. Like, I'm probably going to eat that cheeseburger, and it's not good for me. I get it, but it's a cheeseburger. Like, I mean, it is what it is. And so, yeah, that's probably my favorite food. Like, if I could say, all right, this is what we're going to have to eat today, I'd pick a cheeseburger.
Yeah, by the way, they have a great one here at Pluckers called the Boring Burger. You get the cheese on it. It's outstanding. Do you then do like extra cardio or extra work or something if you have a big meal, or if you eat something that might not be the best for your specific physical regimen that you're under?
I'd love to tell you I do, but I don't. I just try to keep my routine. I try to eat pretty healthy. I really do. The season's long. It's a grind. It can take its toll on you. So I try to put decent stuff in me. But I'm a football coach too, and we have our moments, where ice cream sounds good or whatever that is. So, but I try to stay as good as I can for the most part throughout the week.
And I would say this also, after games, your nutrition staff, they do a great job of making sure the guys refuel, and they're carrying out a box meal or a salad or something like that. Do you allow yourself to grab
something
like that?
No, we do. We definitely do after the game. And the hard part for me is, we eat when the players eat. And, science tells you should have your meal before the game, 4 hours before the kick and all that. Well, that's when we eat. Well, if I eat 4 hours before the kick and then we've got a 3.5 hour game, then I do the press conference and then I get on the radio, I haven't eaten in about 8.5, 9 hours. I'm starving at that point. So they could put anything in front of me at that moment, and I'll eat it. But Craig, our nutritionist, does a good job. We've got good food. We're lucky.
All right. Coming up, we have some questions about this. We're going to get into it. We'll talk about the TCU Horned Frogs. That's next when we continue with Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, here on the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield. Hey, Longhorn fans, luck happens with the Texas Lottery. Congratulations to Marcus Hobson, who won Longhorn prizes and Texas Lottery scratch tickets. Luck could happen to you, too. Play Texas Lottery today. Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, brought to you by the Texas Lottery and from here at Pluckers, the West Campus location. All right, so folks are kind of excited to get on to TCU. Hunter with a question about what did you see in how SMU did what they did to beat TCU. Ken asking about the TCU defense and the 350 rushing yards and what's your take on all that. So let me get your thoughts on Gary Patterson's ball club.
Don't buy the lie. Don't buy the lie. Been saying it all week. We're not going to play the same TCU team that SMU had the luxury of playing last week. And it's odd. In history, the 9 years now of them being in the Big 12, it's been well publicized. TCU is 7-2 against Texas. Oddly enough, they were 2-7 in the game the week before that game. So clearly, whether it's focus, looking ahead, whatever it is, we're going to get a different opponent than what played last Saturday, and we recognize that. It's a good football team. Gary's a great coach, and he'll have those guys ready to go.
Well, one of the areas, certainly, you say a different football team, and it really is. They had several guys out defensively along the front. They didn't have Corey Bethley back. They hope to have him back as well. There's several other guys that they hope to have back and think they might, and Coach Patterson said as much in his news conference this week as well. So you're going to get a different look at some guys, aren't you?
Yeah, we are, and I think I think they've got about 3 defensive linemen that could be back, so that'll allow them a little better rotation to be fresh. They get a cornerback, it sounds like, who's a really good player, Noah Daniels. So they're gonna be deeper, which should allow them to be a little bit more fresh, especially up front. And so we got to work it out for us. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to our ability to execute, our ability to play a physical brand of football that we pride ourselves on playing.
One thing that's definite, and you could see it last week, they've got a veteran, a really good quarterback in Max Duggan, who is 2-0 against Texas. And in his news conference yesterday, he said, I got to be better on my deep throws. But to be honest, from everybody, and including Coach Patterson, it certainly wasn't all on him, and there were some drops involved. But I know you're impressed with that guy. Yeah,
I'm very impressed. He's a winner. You could tell. He's gritty. He can throw the ball. He uses his legs to his advantage, especially in the low red area. They love to run him on the quarterback draw or the zone read pull. They've got a great guy to utilize that zone read with. Zach Evans is a heck of a running back, really coming into his own in year 2. And they got some real weapons on the outside. Both outside receivers got great length. Quentin Johnson and Savion Williams, both guys are a problem when it comes to the one-on-one matchups. And then they got the speed on the inside. So this is a well-versed football team on both sides. They're excellent on special teams. And so we're going to have to play well to come out of there with a win.
The other thing, you brought up Zach Evans, and I think it's fascinating, the connection involved. He and Bijan Robinson know each other very, very well, came out, same recruiting class at the time, and they have regular communication with one another, not this week, but they do a lot. And then to hear Keandre Coburn say he actually helped coach him as a volunteer when Zach was in 8th grade, and he said he was helping out when he was in high school, helping out with the middle school. The connections that happen in this game.
Well, I think that's the beauty of these in-state games like this. I mean, so many of these guys have, they grew up together, played against each other in high school, that when you get into these games, whether it's Tech or TCU or whatever that is, that's the uniqueness of these games, and I know our players look forward to that aspect of it.
All right, we'll be back with a couple final questions. We'll wrap up this week's edition of Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, and presented by the Texas Lottery. We'll continue in a moment.
Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark is presented by the Texas Lottery, celebrating 30 years of winning. Play today. And in part by Pluckers Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
Thompson in the pistol as Bijan Robinson lined up behind him. Snap back to Thompson. Casey lofting it down for the end zone. Has a man open. Caught. Touchdown, Texas. Xavier Worthy down in the corner. Casey Thompson dropped it in the bucket. And the Longhorns have a commanding lead here late in the first half. With Robinson directly behind Casey Thompson. Off play action. Thompson the throw. Casey steps up. Deep over the middle ball. Caught by Worthy. Into Tech territory. Still on his feet. He broke free. Say goodnight to this one. Xavier Worthy pinballed away from 2 would-be tacklers, and the strike goes for 62 yards and a Longhorn touchdown. Back on Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location in Austin, presented by the Texas Lottery. Xavier Worthy was the Big 12 Conference Freshman of the Week, 5 catches, 200 yards, the 3 touchdowns, and looks like he's playing like anything but a freshman right now.
It's pretty cool to see. I've been kind of saying it, and now it's been coming to light here the last couple weeks. I think his comfort level has grown into his approach, and this guy's approach has been since day one. He came to the University of Texas to be a great football player, and he's been working at it on the field, in the classroom, getting himself prepared for the moment. Now he's getting those opportunities, and the moment hasn't been too big for him. He just keeps making the plays that he's supposed to be making.
Is he a classic example of the guy that if he can play, he's old enough? Because we always hear about, so-and-so's a freshman, so-and-so's a redshirt freshman, this and that. Is he one of those examples of from the moment he showed up, you could tell that this was a guy who could help you very early?
I think we could tell. What was interesting is I think our players could tell in the summer. You know, our guys were doing their summer practices without us on the field. We couldn't be there. And pretty regularly somebody from the team would come back, man, hey, X is real, Coach. X is real. That guy can play. Well, then you get into training camp and you have your ups and your downs. You're trying to fight through it. But ultimately, I think everyone kind of knew early on he had it, whatever that it is that we've been talking about, that he's a unique talent and is a special competitor.
A lot of talk about the 11 a.m. kickoffs. This is the second of what we know for sure 3 in a row. But you said all along, your guys don't mind 11 a.m. kicks.
I think they like it. We practice in the morning, so we start every meeting at 7:15 every day. We practice at 9 a.m. every day. We're off the field by 11 a.m. every day. So for them to kick the ball off at 11, I mean, that's like sleeping in for these guys. So they're ready to go by 11 a.m., so it's good for us.
And I would take it they're excited about their first road game in conference play.
I think so. It's a new challenge, right? And the last time, the only other time we went on the road this year, we didn't play great. So I think we've got something to prove to ourselves that we can go out and do this on the road.
All right, the Texas Longhorns take on the TCU Horned Frogs, and the game will be Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. Again, as we said, it's the second of 3 consecutive 11 a.m. kicks that we know of for sure. Well, with last week's game against Texas Tech at 11 a.m. and, of course, the AT&T Red River Showdown matchup with Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl at the State Fair of Texas, also an 11 a.m. kick. But it'll be this Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. We'll be on the air on the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield beginning at 10 a.m. from Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth. So we'll look forward to bringing you the contest. And thanks for the time. I know everybody's excited about this, right?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to our guys going out and playing the style and brand of football that we're starting to get accustomed to. And looking forward to doing it on the road in the conference.
All right. We'll be on the air 10 o'clock Saturday morning from Fort Worth on the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield. For head coach Steve Sarkisian, I'm Craig Wade. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week here at Pluckers on Longhorn Weekly.